Meet Vic. Vic Hammel grew up in Pottsville, 35 miles north of Reading, the oldest of four brothers. Vic met his wife Dina at Penn State. After graduating and his service as an Army military intelligence officer during the Vietnam War, they moved to Berks County with their 8-month-old daughter Melissa. Vic joined his family business, J.C. Ehrlich Pest Control. Subsequently, they had two sons, Jed and Jamie. Dina and Vic soon became active in the Berks County Jewish community, primarily through Federation. Their involvement, among many, included Dina serving as Women's Division Chair of the UGA campaign and Vic as Campaign Chair and Federation President. Vic is active with AIPAC, American Israel Public Affairs Committee, and the National Executive Committee of Impact Israel, which supports Yemen Ord. Outside the Jewish community, Dina and Vic are the co-chairs of the Penn State Berks Capital Campaign. Vic has been president of the Greater Berks Food Bank, a co-founder of the Berks Business Alliance, and served for 25 years on the board of Reading Hospital, including time as chairman of the board. Married for 52 years, Dina and Vic are members of Temple Oheb Shalom, live in Wyomissing, and are the proud grandparents of 6 grandchildren.
I guess I can trace my Jewish roots to my parents and growing up in the small town of Pottsville. My mother was very active in the Sisterhood of our one synagogue, which was conservative, and she also served on the national board. Being Jewish was in every part of my father's being. He grew up in a strictly Orthodox family in Frankfurt, Germany. He and his brother Arthur escaped Nazi Germany in December 1937. What I admired about my father and just about everything he did was that he rarely told anyone, including my brothers and me, what we should do. He would discuss principles of life, but mostly he taught by example. It was obvious in everything he did or said that he was extraordinarily proud to be Jewish. He had a beautiful voice and served as our synagogue's voluntary cantor. In general, I wasn't about going to services, but when he was cantor, I loved watching and listening to him sing. Yigdal was my favorite. When I was about 6, another significant impact on me was when my much older cousin Richard Yashik came to live with us after being released from the concentration camp in Riga, where his father, mother, and younger brother perished. Considering that, his positive outlook on life and people made a big impression on me. He was like Will Rogers. He never met a person he didn't like. The Yashik Social Hall at the temple was named after Richard and his wife, Rosalie. Growing up in Pottsville as a Jew was interesting. In all of Pottsville, there were just 3 Jewish boys and 3 Jewish girls my age. The other 2 boys and I were best friends then and still now. Occasionally, there were some anti-Semitic things said, but generally, it was not a problem. We were often referred to as the Jewish kids by teachers identifying us. I guess we could have been insulted by it, but strangely, it seemed to have the opposite effect. We became proud of our unique heritage then and now. As a teenager, I became active in AZA. I'd like to say it was primarily to learn more about my Jewish heritage, but mostly it was to meet new girls from the big cities like Reading, Allentown, Bethlehem, and Wilkesburg. I hadn't met my wife Dina yet, but she was involved at that time in BBG in Philadelphia. Dina and I met at Penn State where we were set up on a blind date. This was long before online dating services like JDate, but it worked. I was set up with a beautiful, intelligent Jewish girl from Philadelphia who was the runner-up in the Miss Penn State contest. Not bad for a boy from Pottsville. After my military service, Dina and I moved to Reading with our 8-month-old daughter, Melissa. It seemed only natural to become involved in the Jewish community. I chose Federation because I was interested in what would impact the entire community, and I wanted to interact with fellow Jews from all the synagogues. Dina and I found it particularly rewarding to get to know the wonderful and charitable people here who were from what has been called the greatest generation. Regrettably, most of them have died. They were role models for us, and we really miss them. Somewhat reluctantly, our 3 children, Melissa, Jed, and Jamie, attended Hebrew school at KZ. I'm pretty sure they were proud of their accomplishment of becoming a bat or bar mitzvah. I know I was proud of them. What they had achieved and the continuation of that ancient tradition for yet another generation. Our eldest grandchild, Amelia, just became a bat mitzvah, and I know Dina and I were extraordinarily proud of her. Although our Reading Jewish community has shrunk in size, we're really fortunate to have the Federation, Temple, Synagogue, and Chabad providing Jewish programming and services like the Jewish Family Service. When I was Federation president, I was always moved when I would sign a check for a Jew in Reading who needed $65 for medication or $250 to purchase oil for heat. And I can only imagine the increased need at this time. I'm recording this during the 2020 coronavirus epidemic. Former Prime Minister Shimon Peres said the greatest contribution of the Jews to history was dissatisfaction. He said we are a people born to be discontent. I guess you could take that one of two ways. But he meant whatever exists, we Jews believe can be changed for the better. That's tikkun alone. I'm extraordinarily proud to be part of a people who for thousands of years have always wanted to leave this world better than currently existed. And there have been so many Jews who have done just that in all forms of the arts, sciences, medicine, and business. It seems that the world in which our children and grandchildren will live is becoming much larger and so impersonal. They'll likely be living in bigger cities, employed by large organizations and corporations. So I believe that it will give any child a sense of pride and connection to learn about their heritage, regardless of their ethnicity, in our case, Judaism. I am so hopeful that my own dear children and 6 wonderful grandchildren will retain their Jewish heritage and pass it on to future generations for their own sense of pride, and that they will continue the tradition of tikkun alone, helping to repair the world, whether that world is within their Jewish community or their community at large, or hopefully both.
The Jewish Federation of Reading hopes you enjoyed this story and getting to know a fellow Jew living in Berks County. Federation is the central organization for issues affecting all Jews in Berks County. It represents us all, working closely in cooperation with local synagogues and community partners. Your gift to Federation supports our Jewish community here in Berks County, in Israel, and around the world. You provide cultural programs through the JCC. You assist Berks County Jews in need through Jewish Family Service. You combat the growing problem of anti-Semitism. You fund Jewish education for the next generation. To continue these services, we ask you to participate in a very special community campaign. During 2020, generous community members will match dollar-for-dollar campaign increases from both new donors and longtime contributors. Every new or additional campaign dollar donated in 2020 becomes 2. If you're not yet a contributor, please consider starting. If you're already a contributor, please consider increasing your gift. Your campaign contribution to Federation keeps our story of Jewish life going here in Berks County.